WWE Smackdown vs. Raw 2011. One of the greatest wrestling games of all time and easily my personal favorite.
Oh, have you not heard? It was my understanding that everyone had heard.
The Road to Wrestlemanias, the fast-paced arcade-style gameplay combined with the perfection of weapon physics, the roster, the match types, the look, the feel. There will never be another. And whether you've been on the channel for the last 30 seconds or the last 30 months, you know just how much I adore this game. Hell, it's even spawned its own running I adore this game. But what exactly made this game so legendary? Okay, this song is absolutely copyrighted to shit, but anytime I listen to this song on the treadmill, I feel like the Flash. Let's begin with the absolute fundamentals of what made this game special, being the gameplay and the physics engine. This game truly defined what it is to allow a wrestling fan true creative freedom. The type of freedom which we had never really seen before and arguably we never really saw again. Don't get me wrong, a few wrestling games before October 2010 allowed you to be creative, but this raised the bar. For example, a large part of what made this game so iconic was its TLC matches. I am to SVR 2011 TLC matches what Edge and Christian are to the real thing. They changed my entire career. God damn it, they changed my life. Because even to this day, it's hours of endless entertainment as you get to set up tables, stack them, set up ladders, bridges, and overall craft the most creative spots in wrestling games history. The satisfaction of putting someone through a table or two after pushing them off the top of a ladder. Or how about spending the right amount of time in a match positioning a ladder on the edge of the ring to hit an RKO and seamlessly fly to the outside of the ring for a devastating ending. One of the most underrated parts about this game is how well the superstars reacted to steel chair bumps or ladder bumps. It added this extra layer of brutality, hearing the sounds and the reaction as a superstar is writhing in pain. Say for example, Jericho gets hit with a move on his face that lands on a ladder, then he will sell his face. And I understand what I'm saying here is a very simple thing. This thing happens in video game. This is the natural reaction, but you'd be surprised how many WWE games don't really understand the whole
wait for it
not being dog shit thing. Yes, I am talking about. You know what? I'm gonna give myself a quota per video from now on. We're gonna do 3 2K20 jokes a video, and this is gonna be tough because this is a long one. Oh god, okay, I've already used one. Shit. Steel chairs have a variety of grapple animations as well, which are always sure to be entertaining to you.
This could be over quick. Oh, he's been knocked to the floor.
Same goes with the steel steps as a weapon. Like, take a look at this triple threat match here where I hit multiple brutal moves on steel steps off a ladder. I mean, come on. That's what I'm talking about. That's why he's the MVP. That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT. I also absolutely love how there were so many different ways to use tables in this game. So many different spots you could do. You could set them on fire, and the fire animation actually looked very good for the time. And so you can put someone, throw them off a ladder, put them through a flaming table. For those of us who are feeling Deonte Inferno inclined. You can stack them inside the ring, outside the ring, put them in the corner next to a ladder, stack them next to 2 ladders, and watch chaos ensue. It never gets old. Just in the process of producing this video, I caught myself just playing tons of SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 again, and equally having to wind myself in saying, no, you need to focus. Work like others won't, so you can live like others can't. Living like others can't being playing SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 all day and getting paid for it. That, my friends, is the American dream. And, playing WWE 2K20 all day is the American nightmare. Okay, that's 2. It's also very easy to hit a finisher to the outside of the ring like a suplex or a neck breaker because your creativity isn't sullied by an invisible barrier. Another part about this game that I really adored and really miss is the training facility as you open the game. I totally understand, by the way, it's such a minor thing, and I wouldn't even necessarily say I'm clamoring for it to come back in 2K25 because I'm really not. There's a lot of things that are higher on the priority list than training facility. But with that being said, in this game as a kid, I really enjoyed this about SVR 2010 and 11. It really allowed me as someone who was somewhat new to wrestling games to learn how best to do everything without it feeling jarring or interrupting my enjoyment. Nowadays, you get hit with tutorials as you're playing the match types for the first time in 2K games, and I absolutely hate it, I'm not gonna lie. Let's talk about Road to WrestleMania. The Road to WrestleMania modes in this game featured stories for Christian, John Cena, Chris Jericho, The Undertaker's Streak, and Rey Mysterio. They featured fully voiced storylines and the first time in franchise history, the opportunity to allow players to free roam backstage, interacting with fun, unique side quests, WWE Superstars, environments, and even allowing you to go to the trainer's room to upgrade your character like some sort of wrestling RPG. They also featured unlockable legend characters such as a Druid, Ricky Steamboat, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Vince McMahon, Terry Funk, RVD, Jimmy Snuka, Jake Roberts, Paul Bearer, and The Rock. And I know what you're thinking right now. You're looking at the runtime of this movie that I've made here, and you're thinking, is Deonte really about to dissect every Road to WrestleMania in this game? Yes. Yes, I am.
Stars, you're looking at constellations.
He said it. He said the line. Mysterio's Road to WrestleMania lives rent-free in my head. From the car crash at the beginning to the nonchalant way him and Jack Swagger riz up the Bella Twins, and of course the decision to side with Swagger or Evan Bourne, this is so easily a top 5 Road to WrestleMania of all time.
I'm not your baby boy anymore.
Whoa!
Oh, God, Doc. I gotta tell you, that was the weirdest dream I've ever seen.
Then we'll go hit the town with the Bellas. Just like old times.
The way he's trying to gaslight. I also may not be the hugest fan of Jake Hager's career in real life. I mean, I'll take it or leave it. I don't really care. However, SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 legend Jack Swagger? Big fan. He is so randomly hilarious throughout this story with some of the things he says. Not to mention when he dressed up as Toto Americano in one of the weeks. I also think the big decision between being evil with Jack Swagger and believing your friend Evan Bourne about Swagger's misdeeds is a brilliant touch. In which, as a kid, I mostly chose to side with Swagger, by the way, and I think that is where the evil began to brew inside me. Well, you know, that and punching C-3PO in Lego Star Wars randomly and just laughing at that stupid little death sound. Stupid clanker. I'm so sorry. That's like the N-word in the Star Wars universe. He had it coming. Anyway, Mysterio's journey through recovering from amnesia is nothing short of iconic. Even featuring one of my favorite unlockable attires ever in a game for Rey Mysterio, it's absolutely brilliant. And while we're touching on the first Road to WrestleMania here, I can briefly touch on the challenge matches. Essentially what the challenge matches were, it would be, say, you're backstage in a certain week in the Road to WrestleMania just running around talking to people. You talk to, say, The Miz, and a dialogue option would occur, and he'd talk about something, and it would usually end with him saying, "I'll see you this Thursday on Superstars, because I'm The Miz, and I'm banging a really hot..." Ooh, wait a minute, hold up, let him cook. WWE Superstars being an extra show for WWE matches back then. Those extra shows would always debut with huge stars like Sheamus or CM Punk, and then they'd kind of fall off to people like Tyson Kidd, Ezekiel Jackson, and Yoshi Tatsu being the stars. Not that I'm complaining, by the way. I mean, one of these days I've got to make a video, like a retrospective or something, about the underrated era of WWE Superstars as a show, because them boys low-key used to cook. I remember this one time Tyson Kidd, and maybe this is just me like misremembering, maybe this was a dream when I was a kid, but in this one random Superstars match, Tyson Kidd just hit a suplex to the outside of the ring into a crowd. That was like the first time I ever saw that shit. I was like, what the fuck? Who is this man? Why doesn't he have a title? He's cool. And anyway, he was forced to retire a few years later, so that is the DDJ curse. But regardless, these WWE Superstars matches in Road to WrestleMania would usually happen after that week's show on Monday Night Raw. It'd transport you to Superstars in the bus, and then you'd unlock like a superstar or a different attire, etc. If you did all the challenge matches, you'd get a big ending challenge match at WrestleMania, unlocking a legend like Terry Funk in the case of Rey Mysterio's Road to WrestleMania. And as I briefly touched on before, you actually have two alternate paths, a good and a bad path. A good path, or a babyface path, where you don't forgive Jack Swagger for what he did and you side with Evan Bourne, or you can go ahead and choose the bad path and practically become evil alongside Jack Swagger against Evan Bourne.
Thanks for showing me the light, Evan. I owe you one, dog. I've had more fun in the past 2 months than I can remember. Get it? More fun than I can remember? There's just one more thing I want to do before I beat CM Punk to become World Heavyweight Champion.
For the good path in Rey Mysterio's Road to WrestleMania, you would be rewarded with Rob Van Dam. And if you went with the bad path, you'd get a pretty sick evil Rey Mysterio attire. And so it really added replay value, which is also missed nowadays. Chris Jericho's Road to WrestleMania tries its absolute best to paint Jericho as the bad guy, but I see it as more of a Jericho did nothing wrong story. I mean, he gets screwed over time after time after time again, and you want me to believe that he's the heel in this story? No, I want justice for SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 character Chris Jericho. Like, for example, in one of the parts of the story, Chris Jericho says the United States title is below him, and quite frankly, in 2010, he's right.
And if you lose, you're fired.
No, Stephanie, please, don't fire me. There's not even an alternative yet for me to go to. Where do you want me to go? To Orlando? To Impact? To TNA? I won't do it. Stephanie Mummy Milk Man also frequently picks on the best in the world at what he does in this story. And then Jericho is shouted at whenever he tries to come back from this. Oh, and by the way, Triple H in this storyline, he's a bad guy. Duh. I also just want to go ahead and point out, right now the sun is shining outside. I have not seen the British weather look like this in so long. There is a golden light shining down on me. The Lord knows that today's the day. SVR 2011 day, baby. Or, you know, maybe this is a bad sign and this video is going to be a 10 of 10 and no one's going to watch it and I'll just kill myself. So, oh my gosh. You know, 2 endings. Much like the endings in SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 to Road to WrestleMania, I'm on fire today. And a bit of a side note, but like I was saying, I love how this story, just like Rey Mysterio's Road to WrestleMania, had 2 endings, a good ending and a bad ending. The good ending sees Jericho as WWE Champion, with Jericho confused by why Big Show is celebrating with him, only for Big Show to turn on Jericho and Triple H, decapitating him in the main event. That's right, Jericho's moment was not allowed to happen due to this egomaniacal Triple H. Who is the real bad guy? Duh. In the bad ending, Jericho loses and grabs a microphone to say this win was a fluke. He says he's going to invoke his rematch clause, and then Vince McMahon comes out and says, oh, you've been traded to SmackDown, and Edge comes out of nowhere to spear him. What the fuck? Jericho legally had his rematch clause, and the authority just thinks the rules don't apply to them. I mean, for God's sake, Vince, if you're going this far to break the rules, you may as well as, bribe the Florida government. Or maybe you should go ahead and give your wrestlers steroids, or maybe you should pay a bunch of hush money to women you assaulted. What's that? Oh, all those things actually happened. Right. For those of you that know me quite well, you know one of the biggest things I strive for in these new wrestling games is replayability, and this game does it so perfectly. Honestly, if you were to just copy and paste this game's core features and modes and change the roster to the current day's roster, then I think we'd all be a lot better off. This Road to WrestleMania also featured Hornswoggle, who, I kid you not, I didn't think could actually speak when I was a kid. Aha, there he is, the little green fecker. Like, this motherfucker Hornswoggle used to walk around making these noises like ha ha hoo ha ha. That was actually a pretty good answer. But he used to walk around the backstage area with Finley, and sometimes without Finley, making all these noises. I just assumed it was some sort of brain injury, like he had a stroke. Oh my gosh. Listen, man, okay, it was 2011, it was a different time. With all jokes aside, though, this is a really entertaining storyline that sees Jericho at his egotistical best. He even at one point calls out Michael Cole.
Hum in this ring, hum in this ring, hum, 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 hum.
Hey, I'm no WWE superstar. I'm a broadcaster.
Yeah, that one aged well. He had a WrestleMania match a matter of months after this game was released, okay? He probably knew about the fucking WrestleMania match as he was recording the line, you lying son of a bitch. He gets involved in a rivalry with Triple H and the McMahons that eventually involves the Big Show, and he steals the WWE Championship. It's true shenanigans. Or, you know, as my good friend X3 would say it's true nanigans. The stealing the WWE Championship episode is genuinely one of the most innovative runs of gameplay I've ever seen. The way they pathed it all out to actually grab the title on live TV, dodge Shawn Michaels at ringside, and continue on with a series of brawls through the backstage area to get to your limo is fantastic. Jericho is forced to give the title back to Mr. McMahon, where he says he will give it back, but he wants a title shot at Elimination Chamber. McMahon agrees, and Jericho is happy until Big Show reveals that it's actually an Elimination Chamber match, so everyone is getting a shot.
A few weeks ago, you screwed me out of my WWE title shot. Now I get the chance to ruin yours.
What do you mean?
Chris, you really are as stupid as you look. I guess Mr. McMahon hasn't told you yet. You may have a title match tonight, but so do I. Yours.
What? Mr. McMahon can't do this.
He can, and he just did. I'll see you in the ring, Jericho.
But despite all of Jericho's misdeeds and all the misdeeds you're a part of in this storyline, you win the title and the story continues on the road to WrestleMania. Triple H unfairly cashes in his rematch clause a day later, to which Jericho just gets himself disqualified and retains. This story also sees Jericho smash Triple H through the highlight reel TV, leading to that iconic one-eyed attire you may remember of Triple H in this game. Meaning even though Stephanie gave HHH his rematch clause again on this episode, it never actually happened due to the injury. Triple H then returns from injury after the WrestleMania match is confirmed by Stephanie McMahon inside Hell in a Cell.
6 days, Chris.
Eventually ending with Triple H going Rowley sicko mode and pedigreeing Jericho on a car. Now I'm sorry, but once again, Triple H in this storyline is a bad person. All Jericho wants is a shot at the WWE title. He asked rather nicely too, and Triple H, if he is such a fighting champion, could have just given him one and then ended this already, but no. Let me just go ahead and almost kill you, Jericho, because I'm on a serious power trip. It's unchristian is what it is. Unchristian.
I don't want that. It's not Christian.
Another small thing I loved as a kid about this mode is the immersion I felt. I didn't really know any better, so when I was running around these hallowed halls, I just kind of assumed, oh, seeing all my favorite superstars walking around, this must be just what it's like. Like, wow. Like, the younger version of me was like, hot diggity dog, this place is like Disneyland. Until, you know, my immersion was ruined by finding out that WWE backstage sometimes is no a nice place at all. It is quite nightmarish, actually, in some certain areas. So, while we're here, I want to touch on the voice work in all of these Road to WrestleManias, but it is particularly good in Jericho's. One very tiny detail that separates this game from the rest in my head is that so many of the WWE superstars genuinely put their all into their voice lines in this game, making it feel even more immersive. Jericho is so freaking good at that during this story. Speaking of the intricacies of the Road to WrestleMania, if you ever wanted to speedrun this mode, ball knowers know the way to go was focusing on your momentum game in the trainer's room, because simply put, the more momentum you gain, the faster you finish.
Oh, you seem to have a in your Everything going well, I take it?
John Cena's Road to WrestleMania might be the most iconic of them all. And while you may say that John Cena's IRL career credits to him being the greatest of all time, I would point you in the direction of the fact he's had some of the best Road to WrestleManias of all time. Word to Tony from SmackDown vs. Raw 2009. In his SVR 2011 version, we would witness Cena's fight against the Age of Orton as Orton would politic his way into becoming the general manager and screwing over John Cena many times, along with an actually very well written storyline in between with MVP. And again, shout out to Montel Vontavious Porter, because he's another person that really delivered their lines well in this Road to WrestleMania.
And he didn't wait long before he started lobbing grenades, did he?
And like usual, his plan didn't work out as he hoped. But he'll try again.
And we'll beat him back again, because you're going to stomp Orton at the Royal Rumble. If that means I got to be your guardian angel until the Rumble, well, I can handle that.
You have problem? Talk to GM. Don't talk to us anymore.
Yeah, this right here is exactly how I'm going to act when I step out of retirement again as a general manager. As the story continues, Kofi ends up replacing Cena at the Royal Rumble against Randy, since Orton had a restraining order against him. MVP then wins the Royal Rumble, which was a confusing scene since apparently Randy Orton put himself in the Rumble too.
Well, if it isn't the Unchained John Cena, I suppose you're here to get your revenge against me for the Royal Rumble. Yes, John. I screwed you. What are you gonna do about it? Come on, John. After all I've done, you have no reaction?
Round one. Fight!
Maybe the most known part of this story is this cutscene. You get the option to hit Orton, and I know most players will have rushed to press the prompts because Orton was a real bastard at this stage, but if you don't press anything, there is an alternate scene where he continues to mock and goad you until he eventually just low blows you, triggering a backstage brawl.
I have the WWE Championship. I've outsmarted you in every corner. Hit me. Do it! Do it! Fine, Cena. You win. And here's what you win.
Orton then cries wolf and blames Cena regardless until he hits a sneak RKO fade and Cena gets dragged away for breaking the restraining order against him. Also, in the midst of this psychopathic John Cena angle, you can get involved in this backstage brawl with Legacy, and if you lose, you get this cutscene where Cena basically rises up like The Undertaker.
Only a lunatic would try to take us both on. You're completely out of control, Cena.
It's almost a crime to get paid for this, Cody.
Ted DiBiase basically predicting his own money-related crimes in the future.
Somehow, he got Stephanie to step down as GM, and now Orton himself is claiming the job.
The good news just keeps coming. Let's say we go have a look at the new GM ourselves.
All right, man. I'll see you there.
You then go into Orton's office and Orton says to kick off the age of GM Orton, MVP and John Cena will face Kozlov and Jackson in a freaking elimination style tables match. And by the way, I loved this small touch. Like at this point in the story, I'm kind of believing in the age of Orton a little bit. If you're just gonna go out there and book random elimination style tables matches on your Monday Night Raw, hell yeah, I will be there no matter what. Cena's story also features Santino Marella at his sparkling best.
Fellow movie star, John Cena. I've been doing research for my role as a sexy cop stud for 13 rounds. Extra innings. While detectivating, I came across a constipation to commit a crime.
I'm going to assume you mean conspiracy, Santino.
Ah, very good, Jenna. What I found is Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase are up to many things. Nothing I can arrest them for yet. But they will slip up. And when they do, Santino will be a spoke on the wheels of justice.
Also, while you weren't able to move around with the first-person mode in Road to WrestleMania, you could do the first-person mode if you wanted that true immersion. And then for some reason, Randy Orton goes ahead, he hops in Adobe Premiere Pro, he's sitting there with a nice cup of coffee, he manipulates the footage, he makes it seem like John Cena was dogging MVP.
Well, he's not, but you don't have to take my word for it. MVP could more than compete with you, John. I bet he could even beat you.
MVP doesn't have it in him to do that. Not anymore.
Ouch, John. But regardless of your low opinion of MVP, I think he's a more worthy #1 contender than you are.
I ain't worried about him. I've beaten him more times than I can count.
What did I tell you?
And so then Cena and MVP go at it in a last man standing match at Elimination Chamber with Cena winning. In Cena's rematch with MVP, Orton as the special guest referee forces you to grab a chair, which leads to a cutscene where you hit MVP over the head and Cena gets his title match at WrestleMania. And then just insult to injury, Orton goes ahead and strips MVP of his WrestleMania title shot and says, you better go play with those Blue Brand boys because you ain't getting shit over here. MVP goes over Orton's head and explains to Mr. McMahon what has been going on, meaning MVP still gets to cash in his title opportunity at WrestleMania, making it a triple threat lumberjack match. Alternatively, if you don't go ahead and grab the chair as Cena, then the reverse cutscene happens where MVP hits Cena with the chair. In the good ending for Cena, you get a respectful cutscene between John and MVP, and Orton gets stripped of his GM position, replaced by Stephanie McMahon. In the bad ending of this Road to WrestleMania, Orton retains the title, but then Vince McMahon comes out and says, "You're fired." Stephanie returns to power again, and that wraps up this Road to WrestleMania. Overall, one of my favorite Road to WrestleManias of all time, a fantastic story full of twists and turns that truly never gets old. Christian's Road to WrestleMania is a sentimental favorite for me. It features a very well written story where Christian is traded away from ECW to SmackDown, in which, I mean, ECW was dying at the time anyway, so kind of a sinking ship situation. This Road to WrestleMania also features great cameos by the Hart Dynasty, the Hurricane, and William Regal on ECW, which I absolutely love.
My hearing must be off, Sunshine. I'll give you the thrashing you so desperately deserve.
Christian, just the man I was looking for.
Remember that when you're trying to tie your shoes with two broken arms.
SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 legend William Regal is one of the most sorely underrated wrestlers of all time, and quite frankly, as a British man, I look at him as more of a king than this guy. But as all of this is going on, Christian is in the midst of his ECW title reign, but he's getting kinda bored as a dominant champion, and on an episode of The Peep Show, Teddy Long shows up to announce the news, and Captain Charisma is anything but pleased.
You've been traded, player. Now, after the Royal Rumble, you're peeps, and I will be watching you perform on my show.
Speaking of general managers, by the way, you may remember Tiffany, who was the ECW general manager.
Christian, I hope my ECW champion is doing well.
Look at that, already she's sending me voice notes. Hello, Christian, I hope you're doing well. W-Riz, it's what it is. She tells Christian that before he goes to SmackDown between now and the Royal Rumble, there will be a Battle Royal, and if Christian wins it, he can choose his Rumble opponent, and if he loses, whoever wins will face him. Dolph Ziggler ends up welcoming Christian to SmackDown at the Rumble and costing him the ECW title. This kind of scenario was one of the more infuriating parts of these older SmackDown vs. Raw games. You'd every now and again get these matches in this mode, which you just couldn't win because the outcome had to be you losing. The game would never really make it clear that you needed to lose, so there's me as a kid trying my absolute best to beat a system that I just can't beat. Like, what the hell? Anyway, Christian cuts a goodbye promo at the Royal Rumble before jumping ship to SmackDown.
Well, I can think of a couple ways I would have preferred to close the ECW chapter of my career, but even still, I'm very proud of what I've been able to accomplish in the land of extreme.
You go to SmackDown and beat up Dolph Ziggler, and then Teddy says go find a tag team partner. You run into Edge and he begrudgingly agrees and says, hey, I'll help you out.
This isn't 1999. I'm my own man now. The man.
What?
Christian ends up reuniting with Edge for all the iconic ENC shenanigans, including this clip in the locker room where they completely break the fourth wall, which I absolutely love.
Dude, we totally fooled the player into thinking we weren't going to reunite.
I know, we totally... Wait a minute. Player? What player?
You see that weirdo staring at us through the TV?
No, but I'll take your word for it.
You also end up hitting Big Show with a concerto here on SmackDown, and Edge's old theme plays, which is a pretty nice touch. And I mean, we're about to slam this man's... Oh God.
Edge and Christian are standing tall on SmackDown.
And obviously when I was a kid, I never even realized that this was his old theme song. Like, I obviously prefer Metalingus, but I have an appreciation for the old Attitude Era theme as well. It's got a nice riff. Then you win Money in the Bank at Elimination Chamber, in which you get a choice to basically stab Edge in the back and go for his world title, or go for Shawn Michaels' WWE title on Raw and end the story as double champs with your best friend. And one thing I always appreciated about this Road to WrestleMania in particular is that the little details really shine. Like the fact you run around after you win the briefcase, the Money in the Bank briefcase, you run around backstage with it in your hand. It's the little things. Speaking of Elimination Chamber, it's also where you gain access to the famous time machine, which allowed you to travel to previous weeks in the mode. To get this time machine, you'd have to talk to Edge and reminisce about your time machine at the Elimination Chamber, and then talk to Vince in the GM office and grab all the parts indicated on the map before talking to Edge again. Then there's a Peep Show segment where you and Edge talk about who you should cash in on. Edge says it would be pretty cool if you went for Shawn so we could be double champs, before Truth and Consequences interrupt.
You want lame? I'll make you lame. As in not able to walk again.
I've got to go ahead and say, as always, it's great to see our Truth. His delivery is great here. He's so great. I love him. Also, then Orton comes in and RKO's Christian, setting up for a punt before Edge saves you with a spear. If you cash in on Edge, then you win the World Heavyweight Championship, and Shawn Michaels sends you a voice memo saying this.
Christian, it's Shawn. Sorry I missed my call, so I'm leaving a message at the beep. You know, part of me is a little disappointed you didn't cash in your Money in the Bank opportunity against me. I could have used a new suitcase. But anyway, Enjoy your reign as champ over there, and I'll keep enjoying my reign as champ over here. See ya.
It's like going on a dating app. I think I want to date Edge. I don't know. I just like his hair. After a match on SmackDown, Edge shows up and hits you with a chair and then says it's going to be TLC at WrestleMania. I'm going to plug the video I made on SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 where I played through all the Road to WrestleManias about a year and a half ago. But at the same time, also to show you the kind of extreme spots you can do even in the midst of an incredible story. Edge climb up the ladder. Edge climb. No, no, that's not how this was supposed to. Oh my God. Which way is this going to go? Which way is this gonna? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God! No, it didn't even work. Here we go, kill switch through the table. And here we go, Christian. Oh. The story then ends on this path with Edge faking a chair shot hit as they goad the player and break the fourth wall again.
I wonder if that player dork thought you were gonna hit me.
They hit a 5-second pose and the story ends on a happy note. If you choose to cash in on Shawn Michaels instead, then you win the WWE Championship and get treated to more dorky, charming, fun ENC shenanigans. And simply put, okay, I will always love this story. It totally reeks of awesomeness. This is the greatest game of all time. Oh, that was great. That has made me feel like a kid again. That was a fantastic Road to WrestleMania. I loved every set. Oh, he's just putting a seat down. Brother, there's like 5 more matches on this card. Will you hurry up? Now, when it comes to The Undertaker's streak Road to WrestleMania, it might be the most memorable of them all. I mean, this is exactly what I'd come up with if I did a bunch of LSD and said, all right, I got 3 hours to write something before this deadline hits. Blah. Here's the best thing you've ever fucking seen. And also, as is the trend with these Road to WrestleManias, the ability to unlock certain WWE legends via finding and playing through all the challenge matches. For example, in The Undertaker's Road to WrestleMania, you could unlock the final boss, The Rock. And also, again, what the fuck is happening? What is going on? I've got fucking Jesus light on me. What the fuck? Listen, no, stop burning me alive. Cody, finish the story. Cody, finish the... But as I was saying, this Road to WrestleMania really just said, let me go ahead and make the most batshit insane, hilarious story of all time. I distinctly remember the Druids in this mode and in this story in the Battle Royal. And I think it was from the same week in this Road to WrestleMania where it was really eerie backstage. You're basically walking around backstage and I don't know how they mastered such a spooky and weird kind of vibe in a wrestling game, but they did it. And another thing that I think they did perfectly in this specific Road to WrestleMania is the world building. Whether it's that 1 week in the Road to WrestleMania where you're walking around trying to find those weird caskets that open, or even that 1 week where you go ahead and steal the urn from the GM office and you have to collect all the souls backstage.
I can't keep them all back anymore. We need the urn. It's the only way to contain them. You have to find the urn. Use it to contain lost souls.
Or even, for example, seeing Paul Bearer in the hallways in one of the weeks and The Miz just phasing through him and calling you insane.
A more intense task?
What do you mean?
You lost your mind, dude. You know that, right?
They really do build The Undertaker up to be, funnily enough, a final boss in this story. Like, I know this may be an unpopular opinion and it's a very me thing to say, but they kind of built up the streak being defeated better in this game than they did in real life. And I know what you're thinking, oh, of course you're gonna say that. No, but seriously, they did. Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like I'm crazy. I'm right. Another thing we see in this Road to WrestleMania is a match against Shawn Michaels where you have to replicate a 5-star match like the one Taker and Shawn had in 2009. The criteria for this is performing both finishers, both signatures, winning, and putting Shawn through the announce table. And obviously, by the way, this was before they had the star rating system in WWE 2K by default, so at the time, I really liked this feature. I thought, oh, that's innovative, that's new. Nowadays, we still have the rating system in 2K, but I'll be honest, I don't think it's as accurate as it could be. A lot of the time, I'm out there stealing the damn show and they'll be like, 3 stars, terrible, fuck you, kill yourself. They made the 5-star match thing in this game an actual important piece of the story and the gameplay. You also encounter legends during this story that Undertaker faced in order to get ready for WrestleMania, like Jake the Snake Roberts or Jimmy Snuka, with a challenge like don't get too much damage. And again, it's a very small thing, but another cool thing as you're playing through this game, you're getting into the psyche of the Undertaker and, you know, these guys that, at least for me at the time, I had no idea that these legends were going to be in the game. I barely knew who they were the first time I played through, but obviously you have that appreciation as you get more into wrestling for the older guys, so now it's like, oh, that's a cool fucking feature.
You took on Jake the Snake last week? Hey, can I borrow that time machine when you're done with it? Because I'd really like to take Marilyn Monroe on a date.
John Cena, once a milkman, always a milkman. I'll tell you one thing, you never catch a guy like me showing my blatant love for the old calcium. No way. Becky Lynch, Liv Morgan, Jamie Hayter, Jennifer Lawrence, Rachel Green, Robin Schabotsky, Emily Blunt, Kylie Minogue, Margot Robbie, Billie Eilish, Lilith Sternin, Emma Chamberlain, Kira Corcoran, Daenerys Targaryen, Cray, Ashley Tisdale, Lita, Uma Thurman, Season 1 Monica Geller, Shotzi Blackheart, Poppy, Karen Gillan, Chelsea Green. That is the best milk in the world. Well, you see what had happened was. However, right now I'm crushing on that girl from Shogun. I don't know how many of you have watched it on Disney Plus. Incredible show. But Mariko from Shogun. Also, Undertaker showing up on the Titantron before WrestleMania is also a great moment. Like, I love the graphics and the look of this promo and this game, man. Like, why in current WWE games can I not just go into the menu, find a cutscene like this, insert my own background, and have my wrestler seemingly talking into a microphone? You know, without having to go through the freaking hoopla of create a video, which is slow and tedious. And hey, this isn't a slander 2K thing. Like, I like 2K24, clearly. Look at this fucking special referee shirt they sent. I am literally the special guest referee. Trust me, I like the game, not an ad. However, create a video has been slow and tedious for too long. I say we nuke it and we bring back the Inferno match. Okay, everyone agree? All right, hands in on 3. 3, 2, 1, Inferno! Anyway, the final point before WrestleMania against Taker is you beating up Paul Bearer in the locker room, and I kid you not, I have never struggled more as such an easy part of the game. Like, I just couldn't knock him out on this playthrough for like several attempts. I do so much damage, and this guy would just keep getting up. Like, this guy's an overweight NPC. I should give him one more cheeseburger and he should be... Ugh. I'm sorry, guys. I just get a little mad sometimes. That's not right, what I just said. Ha! Take that, you goth Peter Griffin fuck. And by the way, did anyone else notice how I finished him off with the head scissor with 2 seconds to go? That's literal shot clock.
Chocolate cheese.
I heard that Bulls Derek Rose commentary in my head right there. That bang, bang, it's over. DDJ at the buzzer. After that brawl, we see The Undertaker prove he is literally an Avenger. I mean, look at this feckin' push. Jesus Christ. Listen, brother, I'm all for selling for these older guys that have paid their dues and, you know, paved the way for me in my career, brother. But listen, there's a limit. Oh, and then The Undertaker goes down on Paul Bearer and finishes him off. What? You then head to WrestleMania to fight the Great One, The Rock, if you unlocked that path, and finally ending the streak of The Undertaker. To which you hear the SVR 2011 soundtrack playing, because what else would you want playing at WrestleMania?
Unbelievable! The greatest streak in WWE history has been broken!
I mean, listen, when I faced Logan Paul at WrestleMania 47 in a YouTuber Leaves Town Inferno match, I want that song playing when I set that bitch on fire.
We'll rest in...
That doesn't work for me, brother. Literal tears in my eyes. What a marvelous ending to the story. The Undertaker joins the fight against racism and says, Black lives do indeed matter. Bravo, Vince Gilligan. You've done it again. Let's talk about the roster in this game. If you were a WWE fan in 2010 and this was your childhood as it was mine, it's perfect. Even down to the minute detail of having WWE Superstars show legend Chris Masters in the game. I would have wished there was slightly more DLC for this game though, as most of the DLC leaves you wanting more. I mean, you did get Wade Barrett, which was pretty cool around that time. This was like when he still had some value before he got literally buried by Cena under a pile of chairs. But I mean, for example, if this game had the kind of DLC packs that you were getting in today's 2K games, oh my god. Speaking of the roster, this game's menu screens were freaking sweet. It had moving animations when you selected a superstar like they used to do in real life, and they genuinely looked really fucking good. I know, again, I'm biased, but it really is the best menu screen and animations they ever did. I mean, maybe you can argue for a SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, they have a pretty nice menu. And hell, even the 2K24 one ain't bad, hashtag not an ad still. 2K23's was decent, SmackDown vs. Raw 2010's I liked, 2K14's was pretty nice, I like WWE 13's, I remember that one, 12 was alright as well. Here Comes the Pain had a decent menu, 2K19's Yeah, the roster in this game was very nice. Like, I remember very much loving playing as Evan Bourne as a kid because he had such a dope moveset for those TLC matches. Obviously, I loved playing as Edge too. He's my goat, and RKOing people off a ladder, I mean, come on. Through them tables in this game, it'll never get old. I'll get onto the greatness of early Universe Mode later, but I loved the fact that your Universe Mode cards were very integrated into the game, and they showed up on the menu. Your Universe Mode cards showing up on the main menu really made your shows feel more important and feel like they mattered. This game's loading screens also had facts and moments like Sheamus's shocking WWE Championship win, which I always thought was a nice touch in between the fun of the game. I think in general, a small reason why I adore this game is because it truly is the pinnacle of what video games used to mean. It's fun, but there's not a ton of bullshit microtransactions. And trust me, okay, I understand that we all have our opinions about microtransactions in gaming, and hell, even to a certain extent, the 2K games now aren't terrible with it, since I do think the DLC packs provide a lot of value and a lot more value than most DLC packs do a lot of the time, especially for example in comparison to an AEW Fight Forever who charge ridiculous prices for minimal content. But when it comes to SVR 2011, it's old school in terms of if you want to go ahead and get a bunch more superstars and arenas to play, you better play the damn game, word to Triple H. But we'll go ahead and talk about that more when we get on to... I could really still make a whole separate retrospective just about how much I love Universe Mode in this game. And honestly, I mean, there's a few that come pretty close to it, but this is probably the one I've played the most, so I think it might be my favorite rendition of the mode ever. And listen, okay, don't get me wrong, there are a few other great renditions of Universe Mode out there in WWE games, but I think this might be my favorite one. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just right. Because I think when it comes to SmackDown vs. Raw 2011's Universe Mode, there's a lot that this game did right that even the current game does wrong with Universe Mode, and that's not saying that other renditions didn't do things right. I'm sure many of you are screaming at your screens right now being like, Deonte, 2K15 Universe Mode, 2K15! I know, listen, I didn't really play that much 2K15, I'm sorry, I need to go back, I will. I do want to check out that Universe Mode and make a video about it because I didn't play it much in real time, but I know a lot of people love 2K15 Universe Mode for many reasons. I've heard rumblings of, oh, it was kind of like a mini story designer, but it was in Universe Mode and this and that. I will go back, we will do a retrospective when the time is right. But linking back into my point about microtransactions, in this game, say for example you wanted to unlock Shelton Benjamin, then it would encourage you to play the new Universe Mode, play 5 matches and get this girl, play 10 matches and get this guy, go ahead, win the WWE Championship at this pay-per-view, and you get this. I like that. I really like the idea of a mode, you know, not being too inaccessible to new players. You just go ahead, you play this. Oh, I'm playing randomly 5 matches that have been generated for me. This is fun. I'm not thinking, but these matches are cool. Oh, I just unlocked this guy. They did a cool cutscene to introduce me to this guy. I win, I get him. It's not fucking rocket science. I don't need all this stuff. Oh, there's this bar here, and there's this feature here, and you're overcomplicating it. I don't need my modes to be overcomplicated. I just want them to be fun. Okay? Now bring back Story Designer in the Inferno match or I'll kill myself. Now for fair criticism, you can still buy the accelerator in this game and unlock everyone instantly, so it's kinda microtransactions still, but at least it's not like 2K23 My Faction Degree or, you know, wait months for this DLC pack. It was just a simple, play this game, unlock cool shit for playing our game, and I so miss that about games nowadays. For example, it's the same way Call of Duty have gone nowadays to having that big item shop and you've got to get COD points for this and that, and it's like back in the day it was just get this amount of headshots and you get this cool fucking shit. And maybe I sound 1,000 years old, maybe there's people, you know, slightly younger than me who are like, oh no, I like the COD points. Fair enough. If you like the new way of doing things, that's fine. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and say I've never purchased a microtransaction because I have. But it's like in Modern Warfare 3, for example, it was like, oh, do you want to get gold camo? Simply just play the game. Use this gun, get this amount of XP to get gold, you know, after autumn camo, bang, there, you got it. You want to get every gun in multiplayer gold? Just play the game. Just have fun. Okay, that sounds awesome. I'm in. Nowadays, it's go ahead and buy these overpriced COD points, or go ahead and buy this battle pass, or do 6 backflips from a plane and hit a frog splash on the grave of Leonardo da Vinci, and then you'll get Red Tiger. Fuck you. But realistically, we're gonna save this for a larger debate because this is certainly not for this video. The point is, games around this time really nailed the whole play me and get cool shit that adds to your experience dynamic, and SVR 2011 really nailed that. I don't want to go ahead and buy a new game and get 50% of a pie and then have to play for hours to maybe get the rest of the pie. I want the whole fucking pie. I want to get 100% of this beautiful pie and play a little more to unlock the cherry and the cream on top. Does that make any sense to you? And so then, as I was playing through Universe Mode again, a familiar face appeared. Well, hello Dante Inferno, look at that, a wild Dante Inferno appears. And it really pains me to say what I'm about to say, but for the first time since I started playing this game in 2010, 14 years ago, while playing Universe Mode, it crashed on me. I got hit with that white screen of death cheese. I couldn't believe it. It literally happened in front of me and I was like, no, no, no. This is exactly like when you find the perfect girl. You found the one, you did it, you're gonna get married, and then you find out she spoke to other men before you. You looked at other men before we dated, you goddamn bitch. Just kidding around and everything. However, if my dream girl hasn't played SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 before, she's not the one. Speaking of relationships though, let's go ahead and talk about cheating. Because SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 also had cheat codes. You could unlock championships, arenas, attires, The Rock, it was pretty cool. But back to Universe Mode, because I'm not done yet. I love that WrestleMania pay-per-views in SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 felt like a really big deal. You usually had a Money in the Bank match to open the show, which is a tradition I sorely miss. And don't get me wrong, by the way, I love the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Hell, I was even there in London for last year's event. However, with that being said, there's just something that hits a bit different about having a Money in the Bank match at WrestleMania. And low-key, I feel like there should just be an unspoken rule, where if both the Money in the Bank briefcase holders have cashed in their contract from the pay-per-view before we get to the new year, so let's say in July 2023, Damian Priest and Io Sky had already cashed in by the 2024 new year, then they should just do one at WrestleMania, just run it back, fuck it. But a lot of the time, that Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania was like a TV show building up a new character for an entire season, and then that was like the, oh, this person's gonna be important in the next season kind of hint. It happened with CM Punk, it happened with RVD, it happened with Edge for sure. And I mean, to a certain extent, it happened with Mr. Kennedy when he won Money in the Bank back in 2007, but, well... yeah, you know. Something hilarious that happened to me while I was playing Universe Mode on SVR 2011, it was Evan Bourne against The Miz, and then the crowd, well... What the fuck? But yes, Universe Mode is absolute peak in this game, which is ironic because it was the inaugural entry of the mode. For example, as I mentioned earlier, the challenges that led to new unlockable superstars, like when Vince McMahon would appear at the top of the ramp after a match and say, "Did you think you were going somewhere? You have another opponent." But yeah, there were various challenges to unlock different superstars in Universe Mode. For example, win 10 WWE Superstars matches to unlock William Regal. Win one Monday Night Raw match with any superstar to unlock Vladimir Kozlov. There was win 5 Raw matches to get Yoshitatsu. There was win 1 Superstars match to get Zack Ryder. There was win 1 Women's Championship with any diva on pay-per-view to get Nikki Bella, and there was a similar one to get Brie. And in this game, there was even a way to go ahead and get one of those druids, which was to complete all 5 Road to Wrestlemania. Sometimes in Universe Mode, there would just be a match restart that was of a different stipulation, which always felt fun. Universe Mode 1.0 in this game also had other cutscenes like the one I'm sure you remember, with a superstar showing up in the crowd with a ticket to watch the contest. And maybe most notably among everything, this Universe Mode had #1 contenders matches that actually work. It is such an incredibly simple feature that for some reason isn't in the current WWE 2K Universe Mode and has been absent for quite a while. It's such a simple concept among the power rankings, and yet it falls under the radar every single year. Speaking of being ahead of its time, the highlight reel in this game is surprisingly quite advanced considering it was 2010. And don't get me wrong, okay, I know I'm quite biased towards this game because it's my favorite, but I can also point out its flaws. They obviously did get better in future games. There are other Universe Mode features that are better done in the future games. However, with that being said, when it comes to highlight reel, it is absolutely brilliant in the current 2K games. I love it. I used to use it all the time for the My Career Universe. I think it's great and it is only getting better. Nowadays, you can go ahead and use like the Gaussian blur or Gaussian blur, however you want to say it. And you can like really get some cool fucking shots in your, like, for your videos, for your content and everything. It is great. However, with that being said, the highlight reel in SVR 2011 was pretty respectable and did allow you to capture some pretty sick things. This game very much makes me love it more and more when I look at the details of everything, one of which being the finisher animation. I will never get tired of seeing this dope-ass slow motion shine of hitting an attitude adjustment or a GTS. And this was really the first WWE game that gave you full control of moving with your move, and also your finishers, and allowing you to aim your opponents in different directions when hitting the move. And I'm sure for those of you who have obviously played this game before, you know that, you know, you lift someone up for an Undertaker last ride, you can turn it around, aim it towards that table you set up. You're not as stifled as you were in some of the later games where it's like, oh, I aim this, you know, move I'm trying to hit through a table by a little miss, so the table's not gonna break. I hate that. I want freedom, okay? This would cancel out the finisher animation and transition smoothly into the gameplay where some true carnage would unfold. But in the reverse motion of carnage, this game actually really had decent chain wrestling mechanics for the time. It obviously wasn't on the level of current day games, however it did provide a nice little set of chain grapples that were great when playing on Legend, as you and your opponent countered each other's maneuvers smoothly. I still don't know what the lyrics are for Luke Gallows' 2010 theme song. I may never know. I remember tweeting out about this once and a bunch of people were like, oh, if you listen to it in reverse you can hear the lyrics. Oh, it's the St. Valentine's Day Massacre theme, it had no lyrics. Guys. Speaking of smooth, the CPU in this game is actually way more interesting than I truly remember. For example, in ladder matches, the CPU will climb the ladders almost anywhere in the ring. And while you may go ahead and say, Deonte, doesn't that make them a little unintelligent? I say no. Because when I'm trying to hit an RKO through 2 tables on the outside of the ring, I want them to climb the ladder that is placed in the right spot. And most times they do. Also, by the way, I was trying to go for this RKO spot that you're seeing right here for like a whole day. Because every game has CPU, and don't get me wrong, the CPU in this game can be a bit of a cunt sometimes. Speaking of the CPU, I also spent my time back in Universe Mode 1.0 playing on the toughest difficulty. This game on Legendary is insanely fun. It really makes matches such a back and forth brawl, and depending on who you're playing against, the CPU can be kind of a bitch to beat sometimes. Like for example, I was playing this match against Shelton Benjamin, right? And in the words of Michael Cole, I said, I think he's through playing around. Speaking of small details in Universe Mode and the game in general, the camera angles would actively change during the match to rotate around the ring depending on what's going on. Sometimes the hard cam would allow you to see the stage behind you, and sometimes it would be on the left or the right side, and I always liked that variation. But speaking of variety, another thing that made this game so iconic was obviously its match type. Now obviously it didn't have every match type that you'd want in a wrestling game, or you know, an ambulance match, or special guest referee, or buried alive, and a myriad of others which were in the games before or after this time. However, with that being said, this game did have the best TLC matches of all time, so I say buried alive, bury my nuts in your mouth. This game also had championship scramble matches, which had a few different options and were a pretty fun match type, although it was damn near impossible to keep everyone down and pin someone in these older games with multi-man matches. And I mean, come on, you know me by now, you know this game had the Inferno match. Oh, and where are my manners? Yeah, if you're new around here, this is the first time you're watching one of my videos, you probably don't know about my core, the Flame Sword Deonte Inferno. Allow me to catch you up. So, it all started when I was... That's only season 1, fuck. Okay, so in season 2, so anyway, the Inferno match is my match type. I love fire, I think it's cool as fuck, I love everything about this match. I just love seeing them writhe in pain as their skin burns. So anyway, every time I go to these 2K events, yes, I will ask the developers when story design is coming back, when the Inferno match is coming back, because I want to know, okay? Anyway, speaking of story designer in Smackdown vs. Raw 2011 came with a few preset stories which were actually pretty entertaining, on top of being able to create your own. I really wish I still had my old memory card from my Xbox 360 because I spent hours creating my own stories in that design. I'd spend hours listening to This Fire Burns, or I Came to Play, or Evan Bourne's theme, Born to Win, all those theme songs that hit me right in the nostalgia bone. And honestly, it's probably the earliest trace back of my custom GM modes and my My Career Universe inspirations, which was playing this game and making my own stories. Well, you know, that, and also the fact that back in the day I used to have a Lego stop motion channel. I don't know how many of you will remember like YouTubers like Forest Fire 101 where they'd make those moving Lego videos. They still do, but I used to have one of those channels, and so I'd say my creativity for, you know, storytelling and all of that kind of thing also came from there as well. The preset stories that came with the game, like The Animal Unleashed for example, which dove into the story behind Batista's heel turn the year before this game came out. There was one which was all about great matches, and it was a great matches story which revisited some of the great matches around the late 2009, early 2010 period. Does that not sound kind of like a skeletal version of 2K Showcase? Because it does to me. And this was before 2K even had the license. There was also a Straight Edge Society storyline which I actually played through on the channel once upon a time. Although, I mean, to be fair, that was like a whole pandemic ago, so maybe I should play through all of those again on the channel. But regardless, I sorely miss Story Designer as a mode in these games, as you can probably tell by my constant mentioning of it, and it's something I've spoken at length with multiple of the devs about seeing it return in a future game. And honestly, I'll save it for another time and another video because I think it deserves more of another discussion, but the news is actually pretty optimistic on that returning at some point. I want to create a finisher, a mode that I didn't really care about back in the day too much, but it has really grown on me as I've revisited the older games over the years. I just also have to go ahead and show you this created finisher I made for the Big Show, which is absolutely something he'd hit, I mean duh. But honestly, that finisher resulted in one of the craziest TLC matches I've had in my 14-year career in SmackDown vs. Raw 2011. This match literally just said, you know what, my career universe lore? Well, here it is, here's all of it. Just as Inferno is about to lose and all hope is lost, the flames hit and here comes his former Inferno Hell teammate Kane to take out the Big Show, and then bang, what do you know, choke slam to Deonte Inferno. Kane had not forgotten how things ended and Big Show wins the briefcase. Those devs knew what they were doing, they saw the future, they did it for me, okay, they did it for The Rock. And while it may not have been my #1 most played game mode as a kid, Create a Finisher is truly a fantastic addition to any wrestling game, and I really hope we see it return in 2K25 because it is so much random fun and really adds a lot to the game. Speaking of adding to the game though, I touched on it earlier, but the DLC for this game was very much a bare bones version of what we get now. While in today's wrestling games we get what, like 1 pack a month and it has a bunch of stars in it. We saw the game debuts of the Nexus and Wade Barrett and David Otunga and Justin Gabriel. There was Chris Masters, there was Kelly Kelly in a sexy devil attire, there was Rey Mysterio who had an ult, there was online access, you had alternate attires for Cena, Punk, Taker, Shawn Michaels, Shad, Gaspard, Sheamus, and even a WCW arena. There was Layla, there was British Bulldog, Lex Luger, and even an NXT arena in its very early stage. Also, honestly, I think I really started getting into online games around the, you know, FIFA 12 period of time and the Modern Warfare 3 period of time, you know, it was like that late 2011, I guess. I feel like that's really when I bought my headset, you know, I had like the online membership, I had all of that shit. That's really when I was getting into online gameplay, I think. And before that, I was kind of like, oh, this game's fun offline. Why do I need to play with other people? This was, of course, back in the day, though, when I was a little bit more shy and reserved, and I kind of just kept myself to myself, you know? I enjoyed my offline shenanigans. But speaking of me, this right here is 11-year-old Deonte DDJ. Great pictures, I know. Now, as a kid, I was into a lot of different things, but for the majority of my childhood, funnily enough, wrestling wasn't one of them. I'll be completely honest, as a kid, like up until like that 11, 12-year-old time, I thought wrestling was a little corny and I didn't really get the appeal of it. I was way more into my other video games and TV shows like Prime Disney Channel and Nickelodeon, CBBC, Lego, and other sports before I found YouTube and content creation later on. However, my cousin was the big wrestling fan in the family growing up, and so anytime I'd go to his house as a kid, I'd play a variety of wrestling games that he had, and they would go ahead and show highlights of the pay-per-view if it had been a little bit since the pay-per-view happened. I don't even necessarily remember how it was on just a random channel. I think there was kind of like a WWE highlights show where they just show random things that had happened recently, and maybe it was just a little highlight from a Monday Night Raw where they were showing highlights of the pay-per-view. Either way, I distinctly remember what they were doing, and I watched it thinking, okay, this is pretty cool. Oh, okay, you are. And I don't even necessarily think that Kane versus The Undertaker in the 2010 Hell in a Cell pay-per-view was the first ever match I saw, but it's definitely like distinctly in my brain, I can remember seeing that and being like, whoa. This is kind of cool. It's like something flipped in my brain. It's like when you're younger and you don't really like girls, you're like, oh, gross, kissing. I like men way more. I'm so tired. This video's been so long, guys. Please leave a like. I'm tired. Fuck it, okay? If you're this far into the video, you're clearly here for me and what I'm talking about, okay? This is like a podcast. So if you're still here, I appreciate you. Thank you. But genuinely, it's kind of like when you're a kid and you don't really like girls and you're like, ugh, I just like video games, bitch. I'm playing Modern Warfare 3. Fuck off. And then all of a sudden something just clicks in your brain and you're like, huh, blonde girls. Not based on real events. And during this period, I wasn't yet watching it every single week. It was kind of just a whenever I saw it was on kind of thing, like I was loosely getting into it. And I remember tuning back in around this time, not long after, to see that The Miz had cashed in his WWE Money in the Bank briefcase. And I will never forget seeing Angry Miz Girl as a kid. So being a kid who loved saying, because I'm The Miz and I'm awesome, and the way he used to say, really? I was like, this is so entertaining. And don't get me wrong, okay? I'm fully aware that, you know, The Miz from this time period isn't everyone's cup of tea. But even still, with all of these random clips that 10/11-year-old me would watch back then, I was starting to get into wrestling on my own without my cousin, but I still wasn't fully there yet. Because of course, as you may have seen where I'm going and knowing what video this is, the final piece of the puzzle was I purchased this game and would spend hours and hours playing all the Road to WrestleManias, the match types, creating superstars, making stories, and most important to my training arc, the TLC matches. Those TLC matches made me a man, like biscuits and gravy made Jesse and Festus a man, like that one promo made Becky Lynch a man, or the man. You get the point. And those TLC matches can't exactly mean so much to me without my Captain Charisma, you feel me? And listen, for as much as I love life now, and I'm not taking that for granted or anything, certainly after recent events, this 2010-2011 period of time where I'm playing these matches and I'm you know, going to my grandparents and school's fun, and you know, it truly was the best of times, and I do miss those days. And I think without the enjoyment SVR 2011 brought me in those days, I never would have given wrestling as big of a chance as I did. I loved video games as a kid, like many of you did, I'm sure. It was one of my first true passions, and so if there was ever a way something was gonna finally break through and make me a fan, it was gonna be gaming. So I do owe a lot of gratitude to the developers of SmackDown vs. Raw 2011. It truly is a game that not only immortalizes the era of when I fell in love with professional wrestling, but it also immortalizes a very important time in my childhood. Now I know, you may be surprised to go ahead and see this pop up right at the end. Complaints about your GOAT game? What? You're gonna complain about this game that you said is the greatest of all time for years? Yes, even some things that are seemingly perfect have imperfections. Listen, okay, every game has complaints, and while I don't agree with a lot of these, it's worth touching on some of these things that left fans of this game wanting more, as much as it kills me on the inside to even remotely slander this masterpiece. Okay, so first of all, one thing I know that people don't like about this game is that there are certain roster omissions that left people wanting more and left people thinking, where is this guy? Where is this guy? Most notably, you've got Jeff Hardy and Chris Benoit. The same Chris Benoit that did the thing like 3 years before. Okay, just checking. Jeff Hardy makes all the sense in the world though why you'd miss him in this game. I mean, granted, by this point he had left WWE for TNA, so they wouldn't have really rescanned him for this game, but just imagine the game that had the absolute best TLC matches if it had 3 more roster additions. It had W. Ray Dudley, Devion Dudley, and Jeff Hardy. Imagine. Now granted, we didn't have the triple threat, you know, TLC tags yet, so you know, but man, if we had Jeff Hardy in this game, I would have loved it, and I think I deserved it, quite frankly. But anyway, granted, due to being in different companies, they would have never really happened, but man, it's fun to think about. I also think another problem I had with this game was the AI managers or wrestlers coming in to distract the referee, because they just never go away a lot of the time, or it would take forever, so I will say, that was done better in other wrestling games. And also, I know what I'm about to say is such an incredibly small nitpick, but I wasn't a huge fan of the Money in the Bank winning animation where they'd grab it and they'd just be like, ah. But ladies and gentlemen, all great things must come to an end. We've had a lot of fun here tonight, but it is now time for me to officially announce my retirement and choose a successor. I am officially retiring from making SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 jokes in every video. The career has come to an end. I will never mention it again. I will never mention how great the modes were, how fun the match types were, how iconic the TLC was. I'll never talk about how fantastic the roster was or how the gameplay was absolute peak. I will never, ever stop making these jokes. I love this game.
From Milan.